folks, one of the first stumbling blocks that new players run into in fighting games is the inputs for their special moves. It can be a little bit tricky to keep everything straight and remember them for all of your characters and be able to do them when you need them. But not only that, there are also some hidden things that the game doesn't teach you, some little tips and tricks for making your moves come out that are not explicitly stated in game. And those of us who've been playing fighting games for a while, we kind of know a lot of these. But if you're newer to fighting games, or if you're newer to the Street Fighter series, you may not know about these tricks, and let me tell you, you're definitely going to want them when Street Fighter 6 comes out. So how about today, we're going to be doing a list of 5 input shortcut tricks and special techniques that you're going to want to know before the release of Street Fighter 6. And if you like this type of content, and you really want to help me out, hit that like button. It seriously makes a huge difference, gets the video shown to more people. With that, let's jump into the list, guys, starting at number 5. All right, so first thing I want to talk about is the 360 motion, aka the spinning pile driver motion. We know Zangief is going to be in Street Fighter 6, and also there's that new character Lily, who maybe looks to be similar to T-Hawk, so we might have at least one, maybe two 360 throw characters in Street Fighter 6. And you might think to yourself, how the heck am I going to do a 360? That requires a full circle on the joystick. I'm going to jump in the middle of it and not be able to do the move. So obviously you can do stuff like input the move in the middle of another move, so that way you don't end up jumping. That's one way, but more importantly, it's worth noting there are some very important shortcuts for how you can do a 360 and get it to come out whenever you want without having to do any kind of move first. So in the older games, Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 3, stuff like that, the way that you can do 360s is all you got to do is press all 4 cardinal directions, up, down, left, and right. So you can do forward, down, back, up, plus punch, and that gives you a 360. And because you're pressing up and punch at the same time, your character doesn't have time to leave the ground and jump. So that's how you can do standing 360s in older games. And then in newer games, from Street Fighter 4 onward, they actually made it even easier. Now, instead of having to go all the way to up, you can actually end in up forward or up back. So what I'm going to do here is back, roll the stick down to forward, and then up forward plus punch. And this is super, super easy to get to come out. So in newer games, presumably this is also how Street Fighter 6 is going to work. It is very, very easy to get standing 360s. Not something you're going to have to worry about at all. So if you guys are interested in playing some of these grappler characters, you might want to learn this technique so that you can do these 360 inputs without accidentally leaving the ground. Alright, next up, I want to show you guys an easier way to combo into supers. So sometimes when you're looking up combos for your character, you might see something like medium kick into fireball into super. And you might think to yourself, that's crazy. Fireball is quarter circle forward plus punch. And then super is double quarter circle forward plus punch. So am I really going to do like 3 quarter circle forwards in such a small amount of time? It's crazy hard. So the trick to this is actually the first quarter circle forward for the fireball is counted as part of the super. So you can actually do fireball plus punch and then another fireball plus punch. And that will give you the fireball and the super. Not only that, but another really helpful aspect of this is that if you do a dragon punch, that is going to count as a fireball input for the purposes of the super because it's close enough to the fireball that the game reads it that way. So with this, you can do dragon punch and then do quarter circle forward plus punch, and you will get your dragon punch and cancel it into super. So this is also going to be really, really helpful for you guys trying to combo into supers in Street Fighter 6. You are definitely going to want to use this technique. It just makes everything a lot simpler for you. Alright, next up, I want to talk about some various tricks for getting dragon punches. So I talked about this one in a previous video, which is that you can do a dragon punch without standing up by alternating between down and down forward. So you can see I can just tap down and down forward, and whenever I press punch, I'm going to get a dragon punch. And this is very, very useful for anti-airing the opponent because essentially you're going to have more time to get the Dragon Punch in while you're crouching, because you don't have to take the extra time to stand up and press forward, which is supposed to be the first input of Dragon Punch. So doing this from crouching should make your anti-airs a lot more consistent. Then the next tip I talked about with regards to Dragon Punches is cross-cut Dragon Punch, which is where you essentially roll from forward to down back, and you get a backwards Dragon Punch. It uses basically the fact that your opponent is crossing over you. You can change your inputs to specifically change directions and hit the opponent out of their cross up. So just to show you guys the inputs for that, again, you start at forward and then you roll from down forward to down back, and then you press punch. And essentially the down back becomes down forward because you and the enemy switch sides. And that's how you get this backwards facing Dragon Punch. But there's another way to do a backwards Dragon Punch. As a lot of you guys pointed out in the comments, you can do what's called autocorrect. So the idea here is when you do a special move input, you can leave a bit of a gap between when you do the input and when you press the punch. I don't know if it's easy to see, but essentially I'm doing the Dragon Punch input and then I'm leaving a minor gap there, like, I don't know, a quarter-second gap, and then pressing punch. So if the opponent changes sides with you during that gap, the game will remember that you've done a Dragon Punch and you'll still be able to get the move to come out whether you and the opponent switch sides or not. So once again, let me see if I can pull this technique off here. There you go. So yeah, that's all I did. I just did a Dragon Punch. I waited like a millisecond and then I pressed the punch button, and it is going to come out facing the wrong way if she crosses over you during that gap. So this is not too hard at all. And this is especially easy to do if you're knocked down. So this is a very useful way of dealing with opponents who are crossing you up, especially when you're waking up from a knockdown. So that's called autocorrect. But just to clarify the difference here, a crosscut is you're intentionally switching directions, like you're moving the stick in such a way that you're intending for the Dragon Punch to go the other way. Whereas an autocorrect, you're doing a Dragon Punch facing one direction, but the game just decides, it just reads it in such a way that you'll face the other. So it's kind of like crosscut is intentional and autocorrect is sometimes accidental. So yeah, that's the difference, but they're both useful techniques, especially because crossing the opponent up seems like a very potent strategy in Street Fighter 6. So you're going to want to have this ready. All right, the next input trick I want to tell you guys about is called Negative Edge. I always thought that Negative Edge is like a really badass sounding name. It sounds like a secret anime sword technique or something, but really what it means is doing a special move by releasing a button instead of pressing a button. So you might not know this, but in Street Fighter games, every special move can be done with Negative Edge. So you can see I can do Dragon Punch motion plus the punch button to do a Dragon Punch, or you can press and hold Heavy Punch. Okay, so listen to my button here. I'm going to press and hold, and then I do Dragon Punch motion and let go of Heavy Punch, and I'll still get the Dragon Punch. It's kind of weird, right? But every Street Fighter game actually works like this. And there are a few ways that you can turn Negative Edge to your advantage. So one of these ways is you can option select a move so that it will only come out on hit. So that was a very complicated way of saying, essentially, T-Hawk, for example, he has a command throw, right? Similar to Zangief. But unlike Zangief, he cannot whiff his command throw. It is actually impossible. The move can never come out unless it hits. So like if I go for a command throw and I miss, for example, I'll just get another punch when I hit the punch button, right? But if we do Negative Edge and I miss, nothing comes out, which means I can essentially do the move while blocking at the same time. Hopefully that's comprehensible to you guys. It's kind of complicated to explain, but essentially I'm doing the move and I'm blocking at the same time. So if the opponent does a Dragon Punch or something and they're no longer throwable, I will automatically block it instead of, you know, whiffing a grab and getting hit. So this doesn't really apply to new games. This is an old technique that you're probably not going to see applicable anymore. But with characters like T-Hawk and E Honda, also his command throw also works like this. This is invaluable. And the other use of Negative Edge is that it gives you more opportunities to sort of get the input that you need to come out. So imagine like you're trying to do a difficult link into Super, like with Chun-Li. Normally, this would be a one-frame link, but because you're kind of getting two separate chances, you're getting the down input and the up input, you're doubling your chance to get it. And another common technique that people will use, especially in old school fighting games, is called pianoing, which is just hitting all three buttons, either punch buttons or kick buttons, in a row. So this way, you should be getting like 3 extra chances to hit the super, but actually you get 6 because the up release inputs of your kick count as well. So it's not going to be exactly 6 because some things are going to like overlap and happen on the same frame, but in general, having negative edge there is going to make these really hard links significantly easier. But some people I know are really annoyed by negative edge and it just messes them up more than it helps them. So you guys will be really happy to learn that in Street Fighter 6, negative edge actually has an option in the options menu to turn it off. So if this thing just annoys you and you don't want to have to deal with accidentally doing special moves when you release a button, you can just turn negative edge off and not have to worry about it. So that might want to be one of the settings that you check in on when you first boot up Street Fighter 6 when we all get our hands on it later this year. Alright, and the last one on the list I want to talk about is called Tiger Knee. So the Tiger Knee input, technically, is like a fireball, quarter circle forward, except you go to up forward plus your attack button. So it's called that because this is actually how you did Sagat's Tiger Knee back in Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Of course, in the newer games, they've since changed how you do Tiger Knee. It's now done with Dragon Punch motion plus kick. So the Tiger Knee name has stuck around, even though that's not actually how you do Tiger Knee anymore. So what do we mean when we say to Tiger Knee a special move? So nowadays when we say Tiger Knee, what we mean is ending a special move motion in a jump input so that you can do the move as low to the ground as possible. So like in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Ryu can throw his fireball on the ground, but if we do a fireball and then up forward plus punch, we will do it very low to the ground out of our jump. So this is way more common in non-Street Fighter games like Marvel, where you can do like all your moves just off the ground. But it does occasionally come up in Street Fighter. For example, Cammy in Street Fighter 4 could Tiger Knee her cannon strike to get this move insanely low to the ground. This was a super overpowered tactic for her when she was able to do this without spending meter. So I would not be surprised if in Street Fighter 6 we don't see some Tiger Knees come into play, because it's generally a pretty common thing across fighting games. Being able to do moves low to the ground like this is useful because, you know, being airborne, you're invincible to throws and that kind of thing, so you can do all kinds of tricks and baits and get some pretty sick combos going on the opponents. So if you've heard people talk about Tiger Knee before and you've always thought, what are they talking about? I don't see Sagat on the screen. Why are we talking about Tiger Knees? That's what they mean. It's just doing a special move really low to the ground by ending the special move input in jump. So hopefully you guys found that informative and found the whole video informative in general. I'm sure there's some stuff that I've missed. So if you have any questions about like, hey, I've seen people do this or that and I have no idea how they do it, let me know down in the comments and I'll do my best to respond to them and maybe even make another video like this in the future if you guys respond positively to this one. So with that, we're going to end things, guys. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.